Hey everyone, it's Spencer here. Today I wanted to make a video just kind of about the basics and fundamentals of drumming. It'll be good for anyone that's just starting out, thinking that this is maybe something that they like to get into, or someone that's, you know, maybe a part of a percussion program, but they forgot their basics or need to relearn the fundamentals, things like that. Or someone who's just starting in high school and has never done it before and it's their first time. So I'll kind of be going over just playing the drum rather than other percussion instruments. Basically, let's kind of start with the grip. You'll just kind of have the stick in your hand. You're going to have your fulcrum in between your finger and your thumb here so that the stick can rotate. And your other fingers are going to be wrapped around the stick. You don't want to make sure you're like gripping the stick. You don't want to have that going on. You want to make sure it's relaxed, you know, just enough to hold the stick. Someone should be able to come up to you and pull the stick out of your hand easily. That's kind of the relaxed approach that you want to have. And then you're just going to repeat that in your left hand, and this will be called match grip. It's what most starting percussion groups, middle schools use. The other grip that's mostly used is traditional grip, but that's more when you get into high schools and college levels. They use that for the snare drum line. If that's something you're interested in, I'll make some videos about that too. But for this video, I'm just going to stick with match grip and go over the basics. So basically, you want to make sure you're always got a nice angle. A lot of groups always stress having a 90-degree angle. I don't necessarily believe that's ideal because everyone's body shape is different. So someone that's, has really long arms, their 90-degree angle could cause their hands to be like this because they're so long. And opposite, someone who's short would have to get their arms out here to have a 90-degree angle. But it should be fairly close. Like right now, I'm maybe a little bit under 90 degrees, but it should feel comfortable. You also want to make sure that your sticks are above the drum enough. I usually do like 2 fingers, so there's a 2-finger space in between my stick and the drum's rim. You also want to make sure that you have your beads close together, as close as possible, and in the very center of the head. If you have one of your beads out towards the side and one in the center, you hear those different sounds, and that'll cause a lot of discrepancy if you're playing like a roll or just even hand-to-hand things. You'll get a high and a low tone, and you don't want that. You want the same sound for everything that you're doing. For the stroke types, you're going to have full strokes, down strokes, tap strokes, and up strokes. And other people would argue that you have buzz strokes, but I would say that that's just a overplayed downstroke. So the full stroke is what you'll mostly use for when you're, like warming up or just playing typical things. You want to make sure you have a rebound stroke. So it's rebounding off the head. And you want to make sure you're initiating from your wrist. Okay, here I'm going to come on this side so you can see. But you want to make sure you're initiating from your wrists. And as you play a true full stroke, your arm will move as a result of your wrist moving, not from your arm. You shouldn't have this. It should be from your wrist, and your arm will move as a result. For most starting groups, they usually just use wrist, from what I've seen. And more towards your college level or high school level or drum corps, you incorporate a lot of arm, or when you're playing rolls, and we'll get into that later on. But for now, you want to make sure you're playing relaxed, rebounding off the head, and initiating from your wrist. You want to make sure your stick is going straight up and down, right? You don't want this or this, straight up and down. Okay? Then you have your downstroke. Your downstroke is just a full stroke that freezes in the downward position, so just like this, right? Now, a lot of people have this misconception that you have to hit harder and squeeze the stick to make sure it freezes. You do have to add a little bit of pressure to make sure that the stick stays there, but you don't have to over squeeze or tense up your body or anything like that. It should feel just as smooth as your full stroke and just as relaxed. You just add a little bit of pressure to make sure that the stick stays down there. So something you can practice with those two strokes is just do like 4 full strokes and a downstroke, and then repeat that on your left hand. And just repeat that until you get comfortable with that. You shouldn't have any, if you're getting a louder sound and you feel yourself tensing up, that's not good, and that's going to cause you issues in the long run. So you got to make sure that you're relaxed and getting that nice freeze at the bottom. So when you're, up to your playing position, that's kind of where your downstroke should be freezing at, right? So also you have your tap. Now, taps, each school, each program uses different height systems, things like that. But for this, I'm going to say that for this video that your taps are going to be at your playing position. Okay, so just right here. And right now I'm using this little soft pad. So you're not going to be able to hear it as much, but you just want a nice soft sound, right, for your taps. And it should be the same as a full stroke. You're basically playing a full stroke, but just here. It should be the same motion, same feel. You want a relaxed approach, right? Okay. So when you apply those, you'll have different exercises in high school and middle school where you're playing full strokes into taps, and the way you do that is with your downstroke, and then you play your taps. See how that works? So you can have things where you have like a full stroke and then to some taps. Usually a typical exercise you can play is 4 full strokes and then 4 tap strokes. See that? And that's something you can practice, and you want to make sure you get the same sound in every single note of the full, so you're not getting like a hard first note and then a soft second note, something like you don't want that if you're trying to play all full strokes. And same with the taps. You want all the taps to sound the same, not some of them poke out and things like that. And that's something that'll just take practice and getting comfortable doing that. Okay, so you have your full strokes again, your downstrokes, and then your taps. Okay. Now the upstroke is what you would use to get back to your full stroke. So if you're at a tap, an upstroke is basically a tap that floats your stick back up. This seems to be more of a challenging concept for younger and beginning players to understand. Just that motion upward. They think of it as like pulling the stick when you want it to still be a rebound. It should feel like this. Just you're bouncing up right off, right? Use that rebound that you get from those 3 inches or that tap height to propel your stick upward, okay? Now this is how you'll go from playing, upstroke to down to taps back to, full strokes to taps back to full strokes. See, that's where my upstroke is. And then you come back down to play your full stroke, right? So those are things that you would want to practice all together, so you can make up an exercise, 4 full strokes to 4 taps, back to 4 full strokes. And that's utilizing that upstroke to get back to those full strokes. A typical exercise that most middle schools and even in high schools and college at every level uses is just playing eights, or some variation of eights, and that's basically 8 on a hand. A lot of groups do 8, 8, and 16. So you have 8 strokes, and then 16 on the hand that you started with. And then you would repeat that. Right? And then you can add your own variations to that to practice those skills and those strokes that we've talked about. You could do, well, like I've been saying, 4 up, 4 down, things like that. So if you were to play the exercise, you would have 4. Right? And you can add different variations of that to practice that. Another one that I would recommend is just bucks, what most groups would call bucks, or just a typical tap accent, and it's just the same thing if you were to play eights, except you're going to have a full stroke and a tap stroke every single beat. So full tap, full tap. See that? And that really works those muscles there to get used to that motion. And you want to make sure that you're not tensing up in between your strokes. You don't want to be getting that. Stay relaxed. Right? That's another good exercise. For the end of the video, I want to talk a little bit about buzzes, because people also seem to think that that's another stroke type. I personally don't, but it's something out there. For buzzes, I typically use like a triple stroke buzz, which is playing 3 notes on each hand, but you play it so crushed and so together that it makes a nice buzz. There's 2 kind of buzzes you can have: kind of an open buzz, and then like a closed press buzz. You hear a lot of those in marching bands, things like that. And the open buzz is more orchestral when you're playing in your concert seasons, or in like your region band, those sort of things. You'll have more open buzz rolls if that's what the piece calls for. So basically, you're going to have a little bit more pressure in your hands than normal. Right? And you're just letting the stick hit the drum naturally. You're still going to be relaxed. The pressure comes more from your hand. Right? And this is where, depending on the speed of the buzz roll, where more of your arm would come in, rather than playing the buzz from your wrists. You let your arms use a little bit more of the work to make a more natural and smooth buzz sound. Okay? And that's also a good first thing to learn as a beginner before you get into open rolls. I believe that buzz rolls are a good fundamental to have before you learn how to play more open rolls, because you get used to those pressure changes, right? When you're playing full strokes, accents, taps, and buzzes, it's a lot of pressure changes that you're having to go through in your grip. And also, when you're doing those pressure changes, make sure you're not changing your grip. You should always have the same grip, okay? And the same relaxed approach. There's a little bit more pressure on the buzz stroke, but not a lot. I'm not doing a lot. I'm still very relaxed. Okay? I hope you liked the video. Comment if you have any questions or anything like that. And I'll be making some more of these. So thank you. I hope you liked it.